Hi, it's Des here. I'm in Pittsburg, in America. I'm at Share 2019, and I've had an amazing couple of days here so far. We're on day 2 of, I think, 4. And I have the pleasure of being joined by Jim Kokoszynski. Now, Jim is the Director of Software Engineering inside Broadcom, and also the Pittsburgh Development Site Lead, which we'll get into in a little bit. Jim, great to see you. Thank you so much for making time to catch up with me.
I appreciate it.
Firstly, congratulations on an amazing event here. One of the things that I think a lot of people talk about with this event is that it's very unique in that it's a birds of a feather gathering, and it's focused on the user community and building the mainframe community up, as opposed to being a big sales tactic and just, so the brands are investing in the event, but not so much for the taking over the share of voice, just to sponsor it. I think that's a fairly unique scenario, as far as I can tell.
It's the ecosystem. I think we all recognize, often you hear the word too, co-opetition. We're competitors, vendors, but we're also a family or ecosystem here with the mainframe that, we want IBM, the other vendors to be successful to keep the ecosystem, the mainframe family going. So it is an interesting dynamic for conferences, if you will.
And when you look at the way that the whole thing's built, the framework of Share in here in Poughkeepsie, Pittsburgh, sorry. Poughkeepsie's in my blood. It's around getting to know people, it's around networking, it's around information sharing. I've been to a number of the sessions where, as you said, people are sort of co-opting and co-competing around the value. And I guess the big thing about this is that mainframes continue to remind me, as an ex-mainframer myself, that
former, not next.
Former mainframe.
Always a mainframer.
Well, that's the thing. I like your quote that you're a mainframer first, and you're always a but it's this idea that the industry around Big Iron, which is kind of cool because we're in the city of iron and steel here in Pittsburgh. This is an industry that's been around for decades and decades and decades. So when we think about cloud, we think about microservices and DevOps and Agile and so forth. This is all new and exciting and great, but the engine room that's been running the planet for 60 plus years is the mainframe, right? I mean, this must be interesting when you have what we're going to talk about in a second with regard to new kids off the block and the millennials and so forth who join your Vitality program, become the ACs, and they have these little epiphanies. But it's like, well, I heard about mainframe, but I used to think it was dead. I only saw it in James Bond movies, and yet now they're going through one of the most modern, well-established, structured programs I've seen for a long time with your Vitality program through Broadcom of I guess 3 stages, which I'd like to get into in a minute, which is the onboarding of finding them and essentially hiring them, although there was one candidate that's come from a company already, going through the familiarization with mainframe and then getting hands-on, building some of those soft skills, and then the mentorship. So maybe let's start with, firstly, your role itself. So Director of Software Engineering, I mean, it seems obvious, but to me it's like a very broad role. Give us a quick summary of kind of what that entails and what's a day in the life of Jim Koko like.
I think that's what's exciting about mainframe is no day is the same.
Right.
Very dynamic. There are about 130 developers in the Pittsburgh Mainframe Development Center here for Broadcom. We primarily IT ops products, performance, automation, also Zoe Brightside actually was created here in Pittsburgh by some of our ASE alumni, which we're very proud of.
That was very exciting, and congratulations on making it open source.
Yes, we're excited, and again, sharing that with the ecosystem. This wasn't just a CA Broadcom product, but it is beneficial for the entire ecosystem. And I think that's one, there's a lot of pride with mainframers, regardless of where you work, what company, product, but also in championing mainframe in being successful. And Zoe's a great example of that. So engineering, development, which here at Broadcom we are agile, so that includes Scrum Masters, product management. We've got customer success, customer value, level 1 support. But again, as we talked offline about, you're a mainframer first. So regardless of the role, as the site lead, even though I am in development engineering, everybody that is a Pittsburgh Broadcomer, whether they report into me or not, they're part of the mainframe family first. So, day to day, certainly ensuring that we're providing value to our customers, as well as supporting our core products that are already GA out there with customer support, working with them, level 2 support, and then also partnering, which kind of ties in how can we help our customers, not necessarily through code or specific products, but with their challenges, how can we partner with them, which ties into the ASE Vitality program, which is another avenue that we've created and look forward to talking more about with you.
Yeah. So let's dive into that. But firstly, I think on the back of your business cards it should be you're a mainframer first. I think that's just a given. And I want a T-shirt, Poughkeepsie, been there, done that, and saw big iron.
Well, some of that I think is being in the Marines. You're really taught day one, whether you're a cook or recon or a pilot in the Marine Corps, the first thing is you're a Marine. And when I was at IBM, that was one thing that I really enjoyed my time at IBM is they instill that you're an IBMer. We've really tried and do the same thing here at Broadcom, that you're a Broadcomer first, mainframer, regardless of your role or product. One isn't better or more important than the other. The pieces together make us all successful. So that's one thing that we really, through our training, day one, is doesn't matter where you went to school, where you're from, what your family did, you're a mainframer now for the next 7 weeks of training. You're all together in this.
I like that. And we were talking off camera, I mean, I think it was 25, 26 years as a Marine yourself?
26 years thus far, and still in the reserves.
Wow, fantastic.
A few more years, hopefully.
There's no better pedigree than bringing that sort of structured thinking and capacity to that. So, I mean, that's just an amazing life story. And we should talk about that separately. But, okay, so the Vitality program, it's made of 3 components that I'd like to dive into a bit more. There's the first component of sort of the onboarding and the mainframe familiarity piece, which I'd like to get into. And then there's the associate software engineer component where they're sort of a bit more hands-on.
Correct.
And then the final piece of the mentoring within Broadcom, given that you drive the program, and then the customers themselves where a mentor is provided in the customer site to help onboard the new hire, which I think is amazing because when you go to a new organization, it's so hard to find contacts, build your network, and even just find your feet. Right. So let's start with the onboarding process. How do people go through getting into the Vitality program, and what's that first phase of I guess, just mainframe familiarity about?
Yeah. So first, let me just clarify the Vitality program overall, because we have heard from our customers the challenge, we can't find skills, nobody wants to join the mainframe, and that was something that Broadcom looked at and said, we can help the ecosystem here. So the Vitality program actually is run by Deb Carbo and Neil Cash. I'm a piece of that with the ASE program that I'm responsible for, but it is 3 parts as you touch on. First is certainly working with customers, identifying the customers that are having challenges finding the skills and placement. Right now the Vitality program is focused on DBAs or database administrators. That is something we've heard a lot from customers specifically. We are looking going forward that can we expand that IDMS or operations, security products. It's expanded, but right now we've settled in on DBAs. So they start with a 5-week actually online intro to mainframe, some classes, traditional classes, introduction, some through IBM's Master the Mainframe, the material out there. Again, partnering across, this isn't just Broadcom, but the entire ecosystem and using the materials that are already available to create the baseline. Then they come to Pittsburgh for 7 weeks, which is the traditional, we call it the ASE because it started Associate Software Engineer in Development as a grassroots program, but we have expanded that out and we call it kind of the new mainframe, new hire training, more generic, because this year we've included not just development engineers, but also technical writers, level 1 support, as well as the Vitality folks coming in. So they do 7 weeks training. We can dig into what that syllabus, agenda, and kind of the mission of that training program. They graduate this Friday, and it's great timing with Cher here, that they get to see kind of the community that they're now part of. They're not just a new hire, here's your manual and it's OJT, go to your cube and good luck. They already start building up that network inside Broadcom, but also within the community across all the vendors and partners out there. From here, they actually head down to Plano, Texas, which is another development center for Broadcom Mainframe, and they're doing 7 weeks of intensive specific datacom database training there. So do that. What's wonderful about this program, and it's funny if you had a chance to talk to some of the folks from Vitality, is they kind of had to ask themselves too, is this real? Because the deal or the agreement is we bring them on, we train them, we partner with the customers out there trying to identify their needs, and if they are interested in hiring the folks that we've spent the last few months training up, we hand them to them. So we're almost recruiting, training, identifying, and then offering to our customers to bring them on. If it's not a fit or the customers aren't ready to hire at that time, Broadcom has committed to the Vitality folks that are in the program. They call them residents, is kind of the term they're using there. We'll bring them on and find a home for them within Broadcom. So it's a win-win for the folks coming in, interested. It's helpful for our customers who are, I don't want to say skeptical, but this is too good to be true, but it really is real. Anil Cash, Earl, Tara, Deb Carbo, doing an excellent job trying to communicate, advertise this to the customers, inform them that this is an option to help them.
Right.
Nothing sneaky here, or what's the catch? The catch is this benefits, again, going back to the mainframe ecosystem, that we want folks not getting off mainframe or leaving mainframe because I can't find skills or nobody wants to work on mainframe.
Yep.
We're helping them out, which helps all of us out.
It's like the gift that just keeps on giving. But it's rare, I guess, these days to see organizations with that long view of how to build and grow and establish not just a capability, but also a market. Because there's no secret that I think with anything, and particularly mainframe's been around for decades and decades, that you end up multiple generations. I mean, the last time I looked, there's almost 5 generations, so sort of the boomers and the X and the sort of the Gen Ys and the Gen Zs and the millennials in the middle. It's trying to manage that and keep the skills rolling forward, and then people are retiring out and sometimes the knowledge doesn't transfer. So I think you've kicked off an amazing program here, and I can see this thing. Now, you did mention that this actually originally came from Prague, but you've brought the model here to the US. So tell us a little bit about that.
If I could just start on, you said 55 generations. I actually have a gentleman, Ed Legowski, on my team. I'm very honored. 50 plus years on the mainframe, and it is wonderful because oftentimes there's an issue. Oh, Jim, I'm familiar with that code. I wrote that back in 1980, which is wonderful, but what is really neat to see a dynamic, and I think a lot of companies do see this. I saw it at IBM, but there's such pride with mainframers that it's not a job. It really is a career, it's a passion, and twofold. One, Ed says, Jim, I'm having fun. I'll stick around as long as you'll keep me, and my wife won't let me retire. I don't know what I would do, so he's staying on. But also what's neat with bringing in the next generation of mainframers, it has really invigorated our senior folks that have been on for many decades, that they now can pass on that knowledge, and it's really invigorated them. The second thing I just wanted to point out is we're very fortunate at Broadcom because this isn't something special that CA or Broadcom recognize. I think all companies have wanted to do this, and some are able to do it on maybe a smaller scale or pieces, but Broadcom are very fortunate, believed in it, continue to invest, because it's a long view. And oftentimes, with public companies, we have a quarterly view or shorter vision. There is a long view that we need to keep this going, as well as if we invest, can that grow the mainframe a little bit more? So I just want to highlight that, we're not the smartest people in the room per se, that other companies have been trying or been vocalizing this. We're just very fortunate at Broadcom that our leadership has recognized that and is investing. So
I think it's kudos to the brand Broadcom itself, and certainly the lineage that came with CA and yourself and others who have been leading this. That, as you said, it's to invest in this without a real assurance at the end that it's not so much a gamble, but it's an investment in the future. But it's an investment in the future in the industry, not just the organization, and that in itself is a gold star.
And our customers recognize that, Des. I tell you, a lot of customers certainly want to talk about our products, issues or challenges, or their goals where they see their shops where they're at, but also sustainability. Jim, I love your product, or hey, can you do this for your product? The next question is often, and who's going to be here in 3 to 5 years to support my product? That is starting to tie in with the conversations, because I think all of us, to your point, you just look around and see there's many generations. What is the future of mainframe? How do I sustain that? As well as for those mainframers out there at our customer sites and shops, they got to be able to communicate that, because often at the CIO, CTO level, who may not necessarily have a mainframe background grew up in the 90s when they were transitioning from mainframe to distributed server client environment, and they're thinking, mainframe, what are you talking about? We're getting off that, to help our mainframers at the other customers communicate that, no, hey, Broadcom, other companies are investing in mainframe. So it's a data point there. To your question about the ASE program, I've been at Broadcom CA now almost 7 years, but well before me, thankfully, someone had a vision, and people often ask, well, how did you guys start? And often a Chinese proverb, every journey begins, the hardest part is that first step. How do you do that? The investment, it really was serendipity that CA was building up a development center in Prague, and like many places, including here in the US, there was a lot of talent, a lot of great skills, but not necessarily mainframe familiarity. Right. So the leadership in Prague and back here said, we really kind of need a boot camp or a intro to mainframe, one to certainly pass on the skills, but also in recruiting. There's a apprehension or almost, mainframe, that's scary. Oftentimes when we tell college students, universities that, look, you're coming to mainframe, people kind of, take a breath, and we have a 7-week training program. It kind of puts that at ease, like, wow, you're gonna hire me, and then I'm gonna continue being a student for another 7 weeks. And the key thing that I often say, especially when I'm visiting universities and others, is we wanna set our folks up for success. I remember when I joined at IBM, it was, here's your cube, here's some manuals, and I got a mentor and it was great, but it was almost overwhelming. So it started in Prague, and then here in the US, we started hiring, and we were seeing the same thing. We had a lot of smart computer science, computer engineering, but they didn't necessarily have mainframe or operating system classes or background. And about 12 years ago said, we should replicate that. Let's do that. So that's what we did, and then as I touched on earlier, we have found, again, going back to the point that everybody's a mainframer first, at least a baseline. Not everyone needs to understand assembler or JCL per se,
but it's a common ground.
It's a common ground, a common language, as well as the networking aspect that, hey, we're not siloed. I work in level 1, or I'm in customer value or sales. I work on mainframe first.
No, I love it. And there's a lot of talk in the media worldwide around this whole skills shortage in a range of industries, and I think mainframe is no different to any of those industries. And so, I'm excited about what this is going about, because having cut my teeth on mainframe at the age of about 14 to 15 after school, working in operations, putting paper in 132 column printers, and the lifetime after that, which I won't talk about because it'll age me. I think things go in cycles, but this is something that I think is going to be more than just a cycle. It's going to be another foundational shift that's going to potentially change the way that I guess human resources is going to be dealt with in other industries, because as you said, organizations don't always invest in the long-term future. It's often very short-sighted for all the reasons you talked about. So last question for you before we wrap up. From where to from here? So what are the next big, obviously you want to see it scale globally, you want to see many more people come through the program, but what are your thoughts around some of the next key steps you'd like to see this program go through, and I guess beyond Broadcom?
So, as I mentioned, it started grassroots. So what is really impressive to see is it's not Jim Kokoszynski. I'm not training. It's not me. There is literally many people say Army. I say Marines behind me here.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Developers that we have over 18 instructors, and what's really fascinating, we see this across the mainframe community, is the give back of not just their knowledge but their time. So 18 folks that are developers, tech writers, support. Even some sales folks coming in, giving back, that are the instructors. So first thing I want to highlight is, we're not contracting professional educators, which could be good or bad. I think it's good in the sense that the new hires coming in are hearing directly from actually ASE alumni now that we're going 12, 13 years. They went through this program. So many of them remember, hey, I was in that seat 5, 10 years ago. It's kind of neat for them giving back, but also can understand and know what it felt like sitting there. So the classes are tailored here in Pittsburgh for our 7-week ASE specific. We actually start the first 2 weeks with soft skills, which might be a little counterintuitive.
I'm glad you raised that, because that's a big piece that I wanted to get into.
And again, I think it fuels the intent that you're a mainframer first, as well as growing the network. So oftentimes the model is you hire somebody into a team and they know that piece, but they're going to class, our current class right now, 28 folks that are kind of to the winds, going all different products, different roles. We even have a customer in our training right now with the Vitality program, as well as the residents in the Vitality program. Hopefully, maybe one of your customer shops listening will be hired in. So there you have a network across 5-6 customers day one, as well as across Broadcom. But we do the soft skills, want to kind of put them at ease. We don't jump right into JCL check or assembler. They're like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? But that unit cohesion, bringing them together, presentation skills. Again, some might say, oh, it's kind of fluffy. I'm very fortunate that our leadership, our management recognizes that, invest in that, and it's not, Jim, can you trim this 7 weeks to 7 days? It's, hey, that's good. We share the syllabus.
Stay the course.
We start with the presentation skills, 'cause especially for those of you that are agile or using SAFe, you recognize, I often say it's not just the what's, but nowadays, especially in an agile environment, more about the hows. If you could be the smartest person in the room, but if you've got sharp elbows, the entire team suffers. You're not going to be successful. So we start with the presentation skills, communication skills, jump into agile, Scrum, SAFe overview, so they kind of understand. At that point, we do bring in the product owner, product manager, Scrum master, so folks kind of have some familiarity. So it's not just textbook. We do some exercises, some agile exercises, building cities, prioritizing the backlog, so they understand. You can't do everything. You've got limited resources. How do you prioritize? Then we do jump into kind of an introduction to ZOS, data sets, mainframe 101 type baseline. And then we go into JCL check. We do have 3 weeks of assembler, which that's really the kind of the guts, the internals. We tie in exercises, labs, so it's just hands-on. It's not death by PowerPoint. And at that point too, we bring in additional engineers to assist with them. It's not just 1 or 2 instructors for 28. The ratio we really try and do like 1 to 3. And then what's really neat to see is we're very fortunate, some of the universities out there have a mainframe program. So some of the young men and women coming into the program can spell mainframe or are familiar, and it's really neat to see on their own, not pushed or encouraged, but on their own, where you see some of the students already taking on that teaming mentality and helping out their peers in the class.
That's awesome.
There's no grades, there's no valedictorian, it's everybody, kind of like the lady yesterday talking about, we all have to get across the finish line. It's not individual. So it's really neat to see, as well as bringing them together. We do go to, we do a little brainwashing, we take them to the Pirates PNC Park, encourage black and gold. There's no uniforms, but we encourage black and gold for them. And then I have them actually over, my wife, my family and I have them over to the house on a Saturday, get them out of the hotel. We do a barbecue, some dodgeball, water balloon toss, tug of war. Again, just kind of humanizing, team building, but also, hey, we're not just a bunch of engineers, and being part of mainframe is not 9 to 5. And we all understand it's 24/7, 365. So that's the benefit of mainframe, that it does run the world.
That's that 5 nines mentality you got to live with, right?
But the flip side is there's no banker's hours anymore. So we also are on 365 days a year. So, and we take pride in that. It's almost a badge of toughness or pride that we run the world. But it's not all roses. There are challenges, and I think the type of student or even second career, we're seeing a lot of veterans, folks that are transitioning, maybe got a degree and are looking for a job and recognize, wow, I could go back into engineering, STEM skills, coding, and here's a path. And mainframe, what I think is great is as long as you have the degree, the skills, the right attitude to join, that's who we want. You don't have to go to Carnegie Mellon or MIT, and we're only going to those schools. A lot of the schools that we're recruiting, which is neat, North Texas, University of Northern Illinois, Robert Morris here in Pittsburg, have a mainframe program. And I would encourage those listening, IBM does a wonderful program with Master the Mainframe. that jumps out on people's resumes, even just part one. That you showed an interest and aptitude, that's all we're looking for. We'll grow you into a mainframe, so don't let that discourage that, oh, I was comp sci at a small university and I know nothing about mainframe, or it's very complicated. Your attitude is most important. You show some aptitude, of course. You gotta come in, we'll train you. And I think that's one thing that is really, it really excites me about the program. Kind of like the Marine Corps, if I could tie that in one more time, is it doesn't matter where you're from, you go through 13 weeks at Parris Island, you're a Marine at the end. It doesn't matter where you went to school. Same thing with mainframe, same thing at Broadcom. It doesn't matter where you went to school or your level of skills, you just show an interest, aptitude, we want you. You know, come and become a mainframer and we'll help you on that journey.
Well, Jim, if anything, your energy and enthusiasm and just go to life at this thing has got me ready to sign up.
All right.
Well, Jim, it's been
Marine
great to
Corps
see you.
or mainframe?
Oh, both. Always a Marine, right?
That's great.
It's been great to see you. Thank you so much for making time to catch up with me, and you've given an amazing range of insight into what the program is and where it's going, and I can't imagine there won't be folk who are watching who are going to be already going online and searching for where to go to and potentially sign up. So thank you very much, and I look forward to a great 3 to 5 years ahead of us of where this goes next.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it. Thank you.